Hi, okay, welcome to this video about big data, planet Earth. I'm going to be showing you task 1.1. So obviously go to the big data website and then we're going to go through to task 1. So we'll be doing this first task together. We're going to be looking at carbon dioxide data going from 1958 to 2018. Okay, step 1. We're going to go to the data bank and copy the Google Sheet. So I'm just going to load that up in a new tab. And then when that loads, I'm now going to go to the data, which is in the Google spreadsheet. Open that one up, and there we go. There's the data. So you guys will see a button which says View here, blue button, which means you don't have edit permissions, which means you need to make your own copy. So you're going to go to File, Make a Copy, and then put it somewhere sensible. I'm just going to navigate back and put it into my demonstration folder. There we go. Okay, I might give it a better name. In here. There we go. So there we go, it's loaded it into a new window. First things first, we need to tidy up this data because it looks quite messy at the moment. We're actually missing two header rows, two column rows. So I need to add those in there. This is the year. And this one is the month. Just let that load. There we go. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I'm going to add in the capital letters to the top of those rows as well. Okay, like so. Nice. Now I can do some colors just to make it a bit more interesting to look at. So I'm going to click on F, and I'm going to go to the paint bucket tool. And then I'm just going to choose some colors like so. Any colors are fine, just as long as you can still read the data underneath. Oh, that was the same color, whoops. And there we go, nice. Okay, now I might want to add in some table borders, so I can click on the A to select the entire row, like so. But it'll be quicker if I could do all of the columns in one go. So what I can actually do is I can click on A, hold down Shift, I can click on F, and it will select all of them. I can then go over here to borders and add borders over everything. I might want to make my title stand out a bit more. Okay, so I'll actually select the top like that and then go to bold, maybe make it in the middle using that one. I can even put it in the center in the vertical axis as well, and there we go. It looks quite a bit nicer, and we're ready to do some more stuff. So what should we do next? It's task 2. Look at the data, tidy it up. We've done that. And we've made it more presentable. Great, check, check. Number 3, look at the data and try to decide which data to use to make the visualization. Okay, so what we're going to do is look at this data and try and work it out. Straight away I can see there's a minus 99 there in the average column, which probably means that there's no data collected for that month. So I might just, first of all, completely ignore this column. You can either hide it or delete it. We're not actually going to use that one. Then there's the interpolated one. If we actually do create a chart using this data, you'll see that the CO2 levels actually go up and down as the years progress. Okay, this is due to the difference in the amounts of landmass in the northern and southern hemispheres, which is quite interesting to look at. However, we're not going to use this data today. So I'm just going to delete that one, and I can actually delete this data as well. Now the trend data is the data I actually want to use to make this first line graph. So I'm just going to click on D and then go Insert Chart, and there we go. That's the data I want. All right, guys. So first things first, I'm going to remove the trend. Just by the way, we're now moving on to step 4. Okay, so we're going to make the graph look a bit nicer. Okay, so doesn't actually matter what order you do these steps in, by the way. You can do this in any steps, so there's no fixed order you need to do them in. So first things first, I'm just going to remove the trend. So the the legend, I should say, sorry. So you're going to go to legend, position, and then none. And there we go, we've removed the legend. We only need a legend when there's two series or two pieces of data that we're plotting on the same graph, and we need to differentiate by the color. Now, what should I do next? Let's add in the x-axis data. So if I go back to data, using the tab up here, I can click on add x-axis. What data? Go over here to see. Okay, there we go, and it's added that in. Titles I could do next. Trend line. Let's do trend line next. So we're going to customize, and we're going to go to series. And now this is our different data series. Again, we've only got one, so we don't need to worry about which one we're selecting. And down at the bottom here, we're going to select trend line. Okay, that will actually put in a line of best fit, which follows the data as accurately as it can. There are different options of types of trend line, and you can experiment with different ones, see if you get lines that you think look more accurate. For now, I'm just going to leave it on linear. I'm actually going to change the color to red, and the opacity, I'm going to make it a bolder line, just to make it stand out a bit more and just a bit thinner. There we go. Okay, I might actually just go back to my blue line and make that a bit thinner as well, just because there's a lot of points on that line, and I might want to make it stand, those up and down changes just stand out a bit more. Good, we're nearly there now. So now I'm going to add a nice title. Okay, so I'm going to go to chart and axis titles. Then we've got chart title, and then I'm going to add a title. So what was this? CO2, what should I say today? Atmospheric concentrations 1958 to 2018. As long as it's any sensible title, that is fine. Okay, so there's my title. I might just put that in the center, make it bold, just make it look a bit nicer. Very good. Now I'm going to do my vertical and horizontal titles. So my vertical one, I'm going to call that CO2 ppm. ppm stands for parts per million. And then my horizontal title, I'm just going to put year. There we go. Very good. I'm pretty happy with that. So now I can go to move it to its own sheet. That just means it's on its own sheet, and it just looks a bit neater, a bit cleaner, a bit easier to read. So there we go. That's the chart done. Let's go back and have a look at what tasks I need to do. So I've done all of these things. I've added a trend line. I now need to write it up. Okay. So we're going to write it up on the task 1 page of our website. Okay, so here is the example page I'm going to be writing it up on. For this first one, I've given it all for you. Okay, so you can use this example, you can copy and paste. So we're going to open this in a new tab. Okay, and we can actually copy and paste. That's fine. So I'm going to copy that, go to big data, paste that in. Go back over here, copy, paste that in, and I'm just going to make it look a bit nicer. For all the following tasks, guys, you will be writing all this yourself, okay, and that all goes towards your assessment, but for now, for the very first one, we'll just do a bit of copy paste. That is absolutely fine. So the first bit of work I need to put in is the data set. So I'll just put in the title. Here we go. Now I want to add in my data set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Insert. I'm going to scroll down, go to Sheets, and it should actually show you the latest sheet you've just been working on. There we go, video example. I'm now going to insert that sheet into my website. Very good, and it's loaded. Then I'm going to add in my data visualization, and that just is your first chart. Visualization is just a fancy word for representing data in this context. So for this one, I'm not going to select sheets, I'm going to select charts. Okay, there's a subtle difference between sheets and charts. It looks the same. I can see all the different sheets I'm working on, but now when I press insert, it shows me all of the charts that are contained within that sheet. So I just press add, And there we go. There's my chart. Okay, so I can actually see what this might look like on the internet straight away by going to publish and then to go to view publish site. And you will see this is what it looks like so far. Okay, definitely I could work on the styling, on the themes of the website, but in terms of the content's looking pretty good as we there we are. So next step, guys, so we're up to step 7. It's time to extend the data. We're going to try and make a prediction of how much CO2 there will be in the atmosphere in the future. Okay, and I'm going to show you a way to do that. As you can see, there are questions we want to answer. We want to try and work out when CO2 levels will probably reach 450 and 500 and what the CO2 level might be in the year 2100. So we need to extend this data. Straight away, what I'm going to do is just name these appropriately. So CO2 1958 to 2000 and where did we go? 18. Okay, and now I'm going to do my prediction. I don't want to damage this data in any way accidentally, so I'm just going to duplicate this tab at the bottom by right-clicking and then going to duplicate. Okay, and I'll call this one prediction. There we go. Okay, so I might just move that to the end. When it comes to the prediction, you can use any data you feel is a good representation. Now, you could use the whole of the data, but you might find that that isn't predicting a high enough increase. As you can see, the blue line, which is the real data, is actually slowly increasing over time. So it might be more accurate to use the latest data. You could use the last year, 2 years, 3 years, but you want to use at least a year because of, as we looked at earlier, the CO2 levels do go up and down throughout each year. And so if you use a partial year, you might get inaccurate predictions. So I'm just going to use 1 year historical data. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here and I can see my previous data. Just make that a bit bigger. Okay, so I need to work out the differences between these months. So I want to work out how much higher the CO2 level was in August compared to July, the month before. So I'm just going to put my mouse over this cell here, click, and then I'm going to press on the equals key, and then I'm going to click on this cell here, which has the latest data, and then the minus key, and then the cell above it, and then just press enter. Okay, so there's my formula which works out the difference. And then I can put my mouse on the bottom right hand corner of the blue box and then drag that up the page to August. We'll do a calendar year, so September. And there we go. I've replicated my data and there are all of my differences. So now I want to work out the average change. So in order to work out the average change, I'm going to press the equals key again in the cell just beneath there and start typing the word average. So average, like so. As you can see, Sheets has various different average calculations, but we're just going to use the standard average. Then I'm going to open my bracket and then I'm going to drag with the mouse over those cells. When I'm finished, so just press enter and it gives me my average. So the average for this year group, for this group of months over 1 year is 0.16. If you chose a larger range of months, you may get a different number to that. I know if you include 2 or 3 years, you do get a higher number. So anyway, that's enough for this example. I'm going to go with that. I'm now going to work out my prediction, and I'm going to use the F column to do that. Okay, just to make that really clear, I'm just going to make that a different color. Okay. It's like the same color. I'll just do a slightly different color. There we go. That's definitely different. So first of all, I'm going to give this row a title, okay, because I want it to have a title when I do the chart. So I'm going to write prediction or predicted CO2 I might put. Okay, in order to copy the formatting, I can use the format painter, which actually copies the formatting, and then just go over with the color again. There we go. Oopsie doodle. Which one was it? It was that one. Okay, and then I could add in borders and all those things as well if I chose to. Okay, so that's looking nice now. Now I might want to work out what the predicted values might be. So to do that, I'm going to put my data into the next row of the spreadsheet. Okay, so the row beneath where the factual data is, I'm going to go to that row and then put the mouse over that cell, click, and then we're going to go equals this cell over here, the last real data, plus this new average, enter, and there we go. So that's our first predicted total. So we want to replicate that down the page. The problem is when we do replicate that value is we get all zeros. Okay, that's because when I've replicated that formula, as we move down the page, it uses cells which are empty to add them together, and so we get 0. So we need to make a formula that is able to be replicated down the page. So I'm going to go to that cell there, and then just in the cell beneath it, I'm going to press equals, and then I'm going to click on that cell, and then plus, and then the cell next to it, and then press enter. We're nearly there, but the problem is when I replicate that cell, they're all the same. So again, we have the same problem, is that in that cell, we were using the right cell references, but as we move down the page, we're using empty cells. The orange box is correct, but the purple box is empty. We need to anchor the purple box back up here. And to do that, we use what's called absolute referencing. We put $ around the cell reference. So in that cell, we press equals that one plus that one, and then I go to F4. Now F4 on your keyboard might be activated using an FN button. It might be a switch like it is on the Microsoft Surface. You'll have to work out for your own keyboard how you can press the F4 key. But once you do that, you then are able to replicate that formula all the way down the page. Now I know from experience that we need to replicate this 1,700 times. So we are going to scroll down to the bottom of the sheet, which is 1,000 rows, and then we're going to add another 1,000 more rows to the bottom. Okay. I'm going to continue to replicate this down to 1,700 rows. It takes a minute. There you go. So I'll just go a little bit past 1,700. There we go. So we're up to 566 with that final value. Okay, so we're nearly ready to create our graph. The final thing we need to do is we need to extend the decimal date, because that's what we're going to be using for the x-axis on the graph. If we just select the last item of data and then we replicate that down the page, you'll see that it's all the same number, which is obviously we don't want. We want the number to increase with the rest of the data. So what you need to do is just select a little bit more data. So we just select maybe just a random amount of data. And now when we replicate that bottom of the cell, Google Sheets has enough data to work out the pattern. And as you can see, the date increases as it should do. So I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom of the page. Keep going. There we go. Okay, so the important thing is that we've gone past the year 2100, and as you can see there, we're almost halfway through the year, just over the halfway through the year 2100. So that's exactly what I want. Right, so now it's time to make the chart. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to click on my first data column, which is D. I'm then going to hold down the Control key, and I'm going to click on the F column, and you see it's selected both those two columns. I'm now going to go Insert Chart, and there you go. It's created a nice chart which has both those pieces of data on them. Now, the type of chart you use doesn't entirely matter as long as it represents the data clearly. As you can see, we could use a line graph, there's a combo chart, area chart, various versions of the chart, or a column. Like I said, as long as it represents the data, it doesn't entirely matter which one you choose. I think today I'm going to go with the area chart. That looks quite nice because we can also see the variance in the real data, and then the prediction is very clear as well. So all we do now is obviously we make it look good. As you can see in the legend, it says trend season corrected. That doesn't really make much sense to someone who just glances at that data, so I might just straight away improve that one just by going up to the top, and I'm going to write historical CO2. So then as I scroll down to my chart, you should see that that one has updated. Okay, so now we're just going to make it look a bit better. So first of all, add the x-axis, which is there. Again, what data is the C column. There we go, got the years on there now. Then I'm going to go to customize and add some titles. So let's start with the chart title. So I'm going to say prediction of CO2 levels until 2100, sorry. Put that in the center, maybe make it bold. Very nice. Now I can do the vertical and horizontal titles by going to this option here. I'll do the vertical first. So vertical again is CO2 ppm, parts per million. And then the horizontal is the year. There we go. So we've got all the labels there. So that's looking quite good. When you're happy with that, of course, as before, you just move that to its own sheet. So it gets a bit larger. And I could even put prediction chart as the label at the bottom. Perfect. Okay, so we've made our chart. I think it's looking quite good. We can now do the last few steps. So we're going to finish our write-up. Okay, so again, we can, just for this first example, you can do some copy and paste. That's fine. So I've got my explanation of my first data visualization. I'm just going to go in, copy and paste that in, make it look good. Then I'm going to go back and add my extended visualization. Okay. Now remember, we do that by using the charts option, which is on the right hand side here at the bottom. I'm actually going to be selecting exactly the same sheet that I selected the first time we did this, but now you'll see that it will suggest two charts for me to choose from. I've already added that one, so I'm going to add in that one, and then so press add. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to add in the last two sections. Oh no, sorry, we've got three sections. The explanation of my extended data visualization. You might have done yours slightly differently, so your explanation might be slightly different to mine. And then I've got my questions and answers. So I'm just going to copy and paste that into the bottom there. You can make that look nice. Now this is again is a point where your work might be slightly different. Okay, so I think when I did this first prediction, I used 2 years of data. This time I've only used 1 year of data. So let's have a look and see what the CO2 levels might be like in the year 2100. So with this current prediction, wrong table. With this current prediction, I've got by the year 2100, 566. So I would go back into this example and I would change that to 566, obviously, so it's up to date with your new prediction. Okay, and then once you've corrected those answers and filled them in with the answers that you got yourself from your own personal prediction, you'll then add a conclusion. I don't mind if you copy and paste this example for this first time. Copy and paste that into there, make it look good. There we go, and we are pretty much done. So I might just want to quickly check how this first page looks by again going to my live website. Here we go. So I've got my task. I could probably make the title look better, but there's my main body of work is, so I've got my context, data set, my first visualization with a trend line. Oh, it's not quite updated yet. Let's just refresh that. There we go, it's updated now. So I've got my first visualization with a trend line, my explanation of how I got to that data visualization. So my extended visualization, which is my prediction of CO2 levels, my explanation of how I got there. I could change that because that needs updating. And then my questions and answers have been answered nice and fully. and then the conclusion at the end. So there you go. That is how you complete task 1.1. You will need to follow that same layout for the remainder of the tasks for your assignment.